A Bullet in the Ballet by Caryl Brahms and S.J. Simon. Abridged and read by David Rumelle. A Bullet in the Ballet, Episode 4. After investigating the ballet Stroganoff, Inspector Quill now has his first clear suspects in the Petrushka murder case. Or has he?
It was just after 4 p.m. that Quill left Stroganoff's office. Stroganoff claimed to have seen Appelseen on the balcony. Appelseen's statement was that he had been standing in the wings. Quill felt that Sergeant Banner could well relieve him in the next dependent case, the checking up of the contradictory statements made by Stroganoff and Serge Appelseen. "Leave it to me," said Sergeant Banner importantly. "I'll make 'em talk." "Oh, they'll talk all right," smiled Quill. "Your trouble will be to make them keep to the point." Curiously complacent at having thus neatly saddled Banner with part of his own sufferings, Quill took a taxi to the hotel to interview the Poutiques. The Poutiques occupied a double bedroom on the 5th floor. Quill's luck was in, for Arienskaya was out. Amid the wildly congested acreage of 5 cabin trunks, 7 hat boxes, a fleet of attaché cases, the old man was enjoying a doze. He yawned vaguely at Quill's entry. "We pay the bill next week," he promised, and turned over. It seemed almost a shame to disturb him, but Quill patted him on the back and thrust his official card into his hand. He blinked Pouchique into wakefulness. He jumped from the bed and exuded hospitality. "Whiskey and soda?" he asked, but there was none. "Cigar?" The cabinet was empty. Quill offered his cigarette case. Pouchique accepted happily. "I will make you tea," he promised. "Russian tea with lemon." "I understand," said Quill, "that you were amongst those that occupied the right-hand balcony during the performance." The old man blushed and bowed his head. "It is true," he admitted. "I, Pouchique, premier dancer of the Mariinsky, who have danced before the Tsar, the Kaiser, and many presidents, and received their congratulations, now walk on to the balcony. But what would you? One must live, and they say I'm too old to dance, but they are wrong," he said more loudly. "My legs are a little tired, maybe, but my technique and my character, they are still unequalled. Did I not prove it to them this morning?" "You certainly did," Quill consoled him. "Ah," said Pouchique sorrowfully, "you understand. You are an artist, but the others, they are not convinced. Nevertheless, I will convince them, you will see." "Of course you will," said Quill, agreed. "But when you were on the balcony, did you notice anybody or anything that struck you in any way unusual?" The old man pondered. "I noticed that Anton, he danced disgusting, but that is not unusual. He always danced disgusting. When I remember the Petrushkas that have been Dzerzhinsky, Bolln, Volskovsky, myself, and then Anton Palouk, well, my blood, it simmer like a samovar." With some difficulty, Quill managed to dislodge him from the subject of Palouk's inferior technique. "I have been informed," he said, "that you and Palouk were not on the best of terms." Pouchique shrugged. "We have nothing in common." "Your wife found him interesting." "My wife," said Pouchique, "think as I do. She always afraid he dropped the ballerina." "Still," Quill said, "your wife thought more of him as a man than a dancer." "But no," he said, "it is 10 years since she slept with him. My wife and I," said Pouchique, "we often laugh at it still, you see," he added confidentially. "Anton very bad in bed. Now, when I was a young man, Quill was beginning to realize that as a jealous husband, Pouchique hardly came up to scratch. He was just reminding Quill of his triumph in Paris when the door opened to admit a large cabbage, a bouquet of roses, a box of Turkish delight, a portable gramophone, and a shrill stream of Russian. Behind them was Arienskaya. "Ah!" she beamed at Quill. "Monsieur le detective, whiskey and soda?" This was too much for Quill. "I'll see you at the theatre tonight," he said, and fled. Back to the theatre to find a purple-faced Sergeant Banner clamouring for the arrest of a young exquisite who had amiably mistaken the sergeant's shy approach for a suggestion of quite a different character. To the pub to repair the sergeant's self-respect, back to Earl's Court to evade Miss Treacle, and find a boiled shirt, a tepid meal, and the theatre again. Straight into Strogonoff's welcoming arms. "You have never seen Lac de Scene, no?" Beamed the latter, grasped him by the arm, planted him inescapably in his box, and told him to be quiet. But the tough appearance of the four-seasoned ducks that made up the pas de quatre in the Ballet Stroganoff was altogether too much for Quill. He excused himself. In the wings he found Rubinska. She was tapping a satin shoe, testing the block before the cascade of escapade that she was due to perform with the ease of an angel and the toes of a martyr, whilst beside her on guard stood the mother dragon, her eyes defying young Kasia Raniewski, standing hopefully a few yards away to come any closer. Quill strolled over and congratulated her on her performance. "It was better?" asked Rubinska. "Warmer?" "Oh, great," said Quill. "Even greater than your doll this morning." "Oh, this morning I could not dance," sighed Rubinska. "I was sad." Quill nodded. "You were very friendly with Paluk." "I was his mistress," said Rubinska simply. But the mother rushed in to defend her child's honour. "Of course," she said, "they were engaged." "That is a lie," said Rubinska wearily. "We were not engaged." "Well," gasped the mother. It was a new experience to have her daughter defying her, and one she felt curiously incapable of handling. She backed away like a defeated steamroller. "If you like," said Rubinska, "you can come and talk to me in my dressing-room whilst I'm changing." Your mother," said Quill. "I'll get rid of Mother," promised Rubinska. "I'm sick of Mother." After the performance she was as good as her word. Quill knocked and entered. Rubinska, at her dressing-table, looked at him mischievously. "Now, you were hoping that as Anton's mistress I might have something interesting to tell you, but I'm afraid you were disappointed. I doubt if I can tell you anything you haven't already heard from the others. And I was in my dressing-room at the time of the shot, so I didn't even see anything that might prove useful." "Does that mean," asked Quill, "that you didn't take your curtains?" He'd been revolving in the ballet world long enough now to realize this was almost incredible. Rubinska nodded. "It's unheard of, I know, but I went straight to my dressing-room after leaving the stage. Kasia Raniewski escorted me so he can bear me out, and then Arienskaya came in and found me." Quill remembered something. "She found you crying." "So she's told you," said Rubinska. "Yes, I was crying." "Because Paluk was dead." "I didn't know he was dead," said Rubinska. "No, I was crying because something that had happened during the performance upset me. That's why I didn't stop for my curtains." "I don't want to seem tactless," said Quill, "but could you tell me what it was that upset you?" "Anton and I had a quarrel during the performance. You know the booths that house the puppets at the back of the stage? Well, my booth is next to Anton's, and the walls are very thin. Well, it was the first time I found myself anything like alone with Anton for over a month. He's taken care of that, and I couldn't resist an appeal to him." "One moment," interposed Quill. "The booth on the other side of you, if I remember correctly, is occupied by Pavel. Do you think he could overhear your conversation?" Rubinska actually laughed. He could and did. "It's no wonder Arienskaya says I danced badly last night. I defy anyone to dance well with a partner they feel wants to murder them. Oh, I've heard now that Anton and Pavel had a terrific row in the interval." "About you?" "Oh, about me. Paluk had said he was sick to death of being pestered by jealous women, or men for that matter, that when he was through, he was through. Couldn't Pavel and she console each other and leave him alone? So when did you learn that Paluk had been shot?" Rubinska said it was shortly after Arienskaya had left her. "It's curious," said Quill bluntly. "Arienskaya said you told her." Rubinska seemed surprised. "She found me crying. She asked me what was up, and I said, 'Anton,' and she gave a yelp and literally raced out of the room." She turned to Quill. "Do you think I looked so tragic that she thought I meant Anton was dead?" "Anything's possible with these Russians," said Quill tactfully. As a matter of precaution, he had a few words with Arienskaya before leaving the theatre. Her version tallied with Rubinska's. A highly complacent Sergeant Banner greeted Quill on his arrival at the yard the following morning. Stroganoff had told the truth. Several people had seen him going up on the balcony, several people had seen him on it, and the carpenter and two members of the corps de ballet had noticed him coming down a few seconds before Paluk was shot. Stroganoff, therefore, was not the murderer. Appelsine had lied. He was on the balcony, dressed in a peasant's costume, exactly as Stroganoff had stated. Several of the cast had noticed him. However, he had descended before Stroganoff had arrived. This was also vouched for, and was standing in the wings when Palook was shot. Therefore he too was not the murderer. Nevertheless, he had thought it necessary to lie to Quill. Why? The answer, it emerged, was Pavel. Pavel had not been in the wings as he had claimed. The same three witnesses who had seen Stroganoff had seen Pavel on leaving the stage, sprint round, climb up the balcony, arriving as the cast on the balcony were preparing to go down, and standing in the rear near the doorway where he could not be seen from the front. Several of the cast had noticed him in his Moor's costume as they brushed past. One of them had even noticed Pavel beckoning urgently to Apacine, who'd come over and after a few words handed over something, they could not say what. Curiously enough, no one had seen Pavel come down, though he had appeared in front of the curtain to make his bow to the audience, as he had stated. Thinking over the evidence, Quill decided it was quite possible for Pavel to have done the murder. He had the motive, jealousy, and now it was proved he also had the opportunity. As for means, it had only to be proved that Pavel possessed or had access to a revolver, and the case was almost complete. A sudden thought struck Quill. Stroganoff. Stroganoff had gone up to the balcony to look for Apacine. He must in that case have seen Pavel. Why had he not mentioned it? With 3 liars to interview, Quill was in some doubt as to which liar to approach first. Eventually he decided that he would start with Apacine. Quill arrived at the theatre at 11 o'clock, where a pop-eyed Stanley materialized in the corner and grasped him urgently by the arm. "I found it!" "What?" "This!" Stanley delved into his pockets and produced a bulky shape rolled in a handkerchief. Quill unrolled it. It was a revolver. 1 bullet had been fired from the chamber. It was doubtless the murderer's gun. "Good boy," said Quill approvingly. "You remembered not to touch it." "Well, I did touch it at first in my excitement at finding it," admitted Stanley reluctantly. "And where did you find it?" asked Quill. If only he had found it in Pavel's quarters. He had. In the waste-paper basket of all places. "After everybody had gone yesterday," explained Stanley, "I decided to search all the rooms." "Why?" asked Quill. "The police searched the place pretty thoroughly on the night of the murder." "Well, you never know," said Stanley. "Thought I might find something useful. And didn't I?" This was undeniable. "I found a lot of queer things," said Stanley, blushing slightly at the recollection. "Then I came to Pavel's old dressing-room. He moved to Palook's room last night, you know. And there, halfway down the waste-paper basket, was the revolver. And now," he finished eagerly, "I suppose you're going to arrest Pavel?" Quill laughed. "It isn't as simple as that. There is no evidence at all that it is Pavel's revolver, and in any case, it may have been planted there later. Shall I get you a list of all the people that have been in Pavel's room since the murder?" Quill imagined the list would comprise the entire company. It was a good method of getting rid of Stanley as any other. "Oh, do," he said cordially. With an important nod, Stanley went off on his task, and Quill reached Pavel's dressing-room without further interruption. Apacine was busy ironing a costume in which due course Pavel would no doubt appear revolting. He did not look at all pleased to see Quill. Direct attack is best with sulky suspects. Detective Handbook, Rule 57. "Why," he said, "did you lie to me yesterday?" Apacine regarded him warily, but said nothing. "You told me at the end of Petrushka you were waiting in the wings." "Actually," said Quill, "you were up on the right-hand balcony wearing a peasant's costume." "It is a lie." "I have 6 people who saw you." Apacine put down his iron. "It is true, I was up there," he admitted. "What of it?" "Only," said Quill gently, "that this is a case of murder." Apacine sulked. "I was up there to get a better view of the dancing." "I suggest," said Quill, "that you were on the balcony for an entirely different reason." "No." "You were up there to shoot Palook." And quite suddenly, Quill felt that he'd hit on the truth. Apacine was furiously jealous of Palook. He'd gone up on the balcony to shoot him. Stroganoff had seen him there, so had Pavel. Stroganoff had gone round to curse Pavel, divining his intention to stop him. Pavel had got there first, taken his gun, this was the object that was seen being passed, and sent Appleseed away. Pavel, who had just had a row with Paluk, and yielded to sudden opportunity, and shot him. It was all pure theory, of course, but it fitted the facts. "No," said Appleseed. "I was not on the balcony when Paluk died. I was in the wings. There will be people who see me." "Well, that's all right," said Quill. "I never said you shot him. I only said you went up there to shoot him. We know," Quill bluffed, "that when you went up on the balcony, you had a revolver with you. It worked." "You know that? You police, you know everything." "Almost everything," corrected Quill. Appleseed hesitated. "You suspect Pavel?" "We suspect nobody," said Quill. "All we want is facts." Appleseed considered again. "All right," he said. "I tell you everything, but remember, Pavel did not do it." Gradually the story emerged. It was identical with Quill's theory. Pavel, dancing on the stage, had noticed Appleseed on the roof. Appleseed had often told Pavel that he would kill his rival, and Pavel, seeing him on the balcony, had guessed his intention. Immediately on his exit, when Petrushka lay dead on the stage, Pavel had dashed round and, standing on the balcony, had called Appleseed over. He had taken away the gun and ordered him down. "Which was just as well," said Appleseed. "So you see," he added, "I did not do it, and Pavel did not do it either, for he has to come down quick to take his curtains." Quill nodded. "Oh, we have witnesses that he took his curtains." "Ah," said Appleseed, relieved. Quill noted the relief with satisfaction. He did not want Appleseed to know how gravely Pavel was suspected until the case against him was almost complete. And it was almost complete. Quill thanked Appleseed for his information and turned to leave. "Please," said Appleseed suddenly, "you do me a favor." "Yes?" "You do not speak to my master of this today." Quill had no intention of approaching Pavel until and if the time came for his arrest. "You see, my master must dance Petrushka tonight, and the audience will be critical. He must dance his best, and if he knows he has been suspect, it will upset him. And that is bad for dancing. So please, you say nothing until after the program." This suited Quill's plans beautifully. He pretended to hesitate, and then consented. Appleseed shook him warmly by the hand. For no reason at all, Quill suddenly felt a cad.